What's going on, everybody? Listen, man, we're gonna be talking to you guys today about the game, man. I'm talking about the game of money.
The real one.
Right? Now, in this game, there's 4 major steps, 4 major phases, 4 major chapters or levels that you gotta go through in order to truly become financially successful. Now, myself and my business partner here, Jay, we're the founders of Cheat Code. If you don't already know, you should know. Right? And Cheat Code, we've gone through a lot of evolutions. It was a trading program that we now have relaunched, rebranded as a full-fledged financial platform that covers these 4 major phases of wealth. Now, these 4 phases of wealth is preparation, generation, multiplication, and protection. Now, along the journey to, what some may call success or varying degrees of success financially, we've gone through each of these levels. Now, we've gone up, down, and sideways. We started from the absolute bottom. A lot of you guys out there are probably way farther ahead than where we were when we started in any entrepreneurial journey.
Right.
Now, over the course of these years that we've been at this game, we've learned that you just cannot skip some of these steps, because almost every time we've made money and lost money, it was truly because we skipped one of these phases of wealth, thinking that we can find the shortcuts to success. And to be honest with y'all, man, it just does not exist. Like I said, there's 4 phases. Preparation, which is banking, credit, and personal finance. You gotta make sure that your financial house is in order before you start trying to put a lot of money into that house, right? You gotta make sure the foundation is set. The second one is generation. Generation means we're gonna generate an income through business, side hustles, or job skills. Now, what's the other 2, bro?
Man, so the next phase in that is the multiplication phase. Now, the multiplication phase is where we're focusing on trading, investing, and real estate. And the very last phase, certainly not the least, is the protection phase, where we're talking about tax strategies, insurance, setting up trust. Those things are super important to your legacy. I know a lot of y'all want to build family legacy, and that's one of the most important phases when it comes to building a legacy. So without further ado, I'm gonna go ahead and kick it off with the preparation phase with some of my personal life stories and how you can learn from them and excel and move through these phases for success. Right now, 3 things I learned from going through the college system. 1 was making sure that my personal finance was in order, right? Things like budgeting. I had no idea what budgeting was, right? I went through the college system, buying expensive textbooks, going to expensive classes, taking expensive credits, and I had no idea what budgeting was. Making sure that you have X amount of dollars for your savings, X amount of dollars for your emergency fund, and X amount of dollars for your retirement fund is extremely important. Now, number 2 thing that I learned is all about credit, right? The importance and the strength of having strong credit. I didn't know just how hard these decisions were gonna be affecting me in the long run. And the 3rd thing, but certainly not the least thing that I learned along this journey was making sure that when I come out, I have strong job skills, right? Strong job skills and effective in corporate. It doesn't matter what you're doing, as long as you go to school for something, even if you don't like what you're doing, make sure when you come out of school, you have a strong job skill, right? All right, so number 3 is having a strong banking system, right? Like building a strong relationship with a bank goes a very long way. Why? Because when you need that credit, you're gonna need to go to a bank in order to get access to that credit, right? So if you have a strong relationship with a bank, that's gonna go a long way in the future. Once you get out of college, you'll be able to leverage that. If you wanna start a business or you don't wanna go the traditional education route, it's gonna play a super huge role. So that's what I'm gonna leave you guys with, man. Let's go to the generation phase.
Man, look, that's a bar, man. Even on the preparation side thing, I think it's crazy because, we have 2 very different stories and 2 very different backgrounds.
Right.
And both of them, preparation was a key component.
Very key.
In a lot of things that we did. When I came home, myself, I did 3 years in prison. I came home at 21 years old trying to get my life together. 2011, I come home, I got a son on the way in 2012, trying to figure it out. Knew nothing about banking, knew nothing about credit, knew nothing about any of that type of stuff, right? The only things I learned was from people that really didn't know much themselves. A lot of you guys out there probably experienced something very similar, where during your college years or during your younger years, maybe you opened up credit lines, or maybe you overdrafted bank accounts and then got the bank account shut down, and now you can't get a credit card with that bank, or you can't even open another checking account. And these things, even though they may seem insurmountable at the time, they can be dealt with.
Right.
Fixing your credit is a very key component because if you're not bankable, like Jay said,
man,
you're not gonna be out there. If you try to go start a business or even get into trading or real estate, you're gonna find a very difficult time because you can't leverage the bank's money. And the bank is, that's where all the money comes from, ultimately, right?
Yeah.
And so you're not saying you can't be successful without having credit or without being bankable, but it's a much more difficult process.
Yeah.
And at some point, you're gonna have to come back and fix your credit. That's just the bottom line. I don't care how much money you got. We literally spent the past, 5-6 years with hundreds of thousands of dollars, even millions of dollars.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, you walk into a bank, you make millions of dollars and they still want to see your credit. Not saying to use credit irresponsibly, but being able to turn credit into cash and then being able to invest and leverage that cash is a major cheat code and wealth hack that people have been using for decades now. The United States is one of the countries in the world that actually has a credit infrastructure.
Man,
Jay can attest.
I cannot emphasize this enough. I always tell people like, man, the power of OPM and having the ability to access credit is extremely important. Back home, when you see somebody driving a G-Wagon, a Range Rover, a Rolls Royce, a Lamborghini, they own it outright. They went to the dealership and put all $450,000 on the table like, hey, I want to buy this, because there's no such thing as financing or the credit system. That doesn't really exist back home. If you're buying a house, you got to buy it outright. Even when you're renting an apartment, they want you to pay the full year up front. Like, so you could just imagine how crazy of a shock, culture shock it was for somebody like myself in the States, just finding out like, people are going out, utilizing their credit. As long as the bank trusts them, they're credible. That's where credit comes from, right? You're credible. You're a credible person to be able to lend money to. So now that you have a good credit, you can walk into the bank, enjoy the finer things in life without having to put all your cash. That's something that you can save for your legacy. That's major.
You get the skill sets, which we're gonna talk about next, but if you have the credit, you make sure your credit is together, you make sure you know how to manage your personal finances and expenses, you make sure you know how the banking system works and become bankable, that's gonna set you up for success in the next steps. So without any further ado, I'm gonna see you guys on the next step, which is generation.